مثلا Batra Daf Kuf Nun Tet Amud Aleph. Continuing from Kuf Nun Het Amud Bet, a few lines from the bottom, 4 lines from the bottom. So Humitam asked the question from Eretz Israel. Ben Shalava Ben Echzeh Aviv ve'Achei Aviv. If someone borrowed against his father's property while his father was alive, Umet, and then the father died, Beno Motzi Mi'ad al-Kochot, the son can seize the items from the real estate from the purchasers. This is difficult to explain in money matters. So the Gemara says, if he borrowed, what's he taking away? What are the purchaser doing there? Meaning, if he borrowed against the property, but the property is never sold, then who bought it? Okay, so rather, Ela Idmar Hachi come to explain it as follows. Eitmar. Someone sold some of his father's property while the father was alive. Umed and the father died. The son may seize the property from the people who bought it. And that's difficult to understand about money. Because why? Because the purchasers can tell the grandson, your father sold us the property, and now you're going to take it away from us. It's not fair. Gemara says, it's not such a big difficult to understand. Maybe the grandson can tell the purchasers, I'm taking the property back on behalf of my grandfather. Meaning the what happened was the son sold the father's property, and that son died, and his son can take away from the buyer. So now the grandson's saying, "Yeah, I'm taking it on behalf through the power of my grandfather." And Ted, we know that a grandson can take through his grandfather. Your sons will be in the place of your fathers, which is grandson to grandfather. So Elliot Kasha Kasha. So what's the big question about monetary matters? This is the question. Firstborn son sold his firstborn share while his father was alive. Umet and then he died. Beno, his son, can seize the property from the purchasers after the grandfather dies. How can the grandson, the son sell and the grandson take back from the guy who his father sold it to? And don't tell me that he's coming through the power of the grandfather. Because he's coming through the power of his grandfather. He can't touch firstborn portion share. His grandfather wasn't the firstborn in that case, in that family. My kushada, where it says, okay, still not a question, not a problem. Because the firstborn son can say, I'm coming on behalf of my grandfather, but I'm standing in the place of my father to grab and to reclaim the firstborn portion. So still, we're not sure what the big deal about money matters is. Let me try this one. If someone knew testimony about a document, and then he became a thief, which is pasul edut. Then he became a thief. He can't testify in his own signature about but others can testify about it. The Gemara says, if he can't testify on his own signature, other people can testify on it. That's very hard to understand in money matters. The Gemara says, what's the problem? The case is where this guy had his signature stored and staved in the archives of Betin, and therefore people are verifying the court certification. Not a big deal. Not a action. Let's see. This is the problem. Someone testimony about a document until before the property was to fall to him as inheritance. A distant relative that all of a sudden now he became next of kin afterward. He can't authenticate his own signature. But other people can. Same question. Not a big deal. Again, his maybe his signature was already archived. Maybe this is the question. Testimony about someone else. Until before he became that person's son-in-law, then that he married his daughter, became his son-in-law. Now he can't testify. He can't testify on his own signature, but others can testify. How can he be not believed, but other people can believe? Don't tell me already that we're already preempting. Don't tell me the answer that it's in archive. His signature is archived. Even if it does not apply, even if his handwriting was not was established beforehand. Okay. Yes, it doesn't logically make sense to us that someone else testify on his handwriting, but he can't. Maybe that's the halacha that Hashem doesn't allow a son-in-law to testify. Not because we might be afraid he's lying. Because why? Moshe and Aaron to their sons-in-laws about their fathers-in-law. We're not worried about Moshe and Aaron testifying falsely. Must be. It's zigizerot. That's the halacha. Hachanami who to here to the person can't testify on his own son. I don't know. Or father-in-law. So that's why he can't testify on his own, but others can. Ela le'olam k'derinu yikara relates the first case. The first case with the grandson, son, and father and grandfather. And maybe it's not a chidush because he could testify in the place of his grandfather. Over there, that was mentioning a beracha. That wasn't telling you a halacha that the grandson could take the place of his grandfather. It's just telling you that the blessing will be that a grandson will be able to take over the property that his grandfather had. Can you really say it's only a beracha? But not for halacha. But Mishnah says, Nafal bat lav alavi v'lav v'ronshav hayta alav tabri shab l'achov. Our Mishnah, Yoshia Avim ben Yirishon v'achach ben Meta'av. We see from here that the guy is able to collect the father's property as payment that the son owed him. So, my love, Yoroshe Ha'av ben Bnei, where he said the father's heirs, the father's relatives, is referring to the sons of the guy who died, the grandson. And the one who inherits is referring to the brothers. And therefore, and if you're telling me that pasuk told you about the grandson and grandfather is not a halacha, but rather a beracha, and therefore you can't say that the guy can come through the power of his grandpa, then in the case if the son did die first, and then the father died afterward in the building, my havi, who cares? The grandson shouldn't be able to claim anything. The guy who was owed money to the court. I'm not touching their stuff, I'm touching their father's property. And therefore, if they're not taking the place of the grandpa, because the pasuk, according to you, does not mean anything except for beracha, that they're not stepping in the place of the grandfather. So therefore, our Mishnah, however, does allow it. So what's going on? The Gemara says, "Lo, Yerushia Avahav is true." When it says the inheritor of the father, does not mean his sons, and therefore the grandsons. Rather, it's referring to his brothers. And when it says the people who are inheriting it too, it can refer to the guy's uncles, and therefore no proof from our Mishnah against what we just said. And really, seemingly, right now we're saying that the grandson cannot step in the place of the grandfather. Okay. Ben Mahu Shirash Itmo Bakever Lanhil Leachin Me'naav. We've had this previously as a halacha that we know it can't work, but now we're going to talk about it. Can a son inherit from his mother after he died to pass it on to his paternal brothers, to the brothers born from the same father? So he died, his mother then dies. Can he in the grave, quote unquote, inherit his stuff, and therefore it will be passed straight to the other side of the family, to his father's side family? A father was taken captive and died, and his son died locally, or vice versa. The son was taken captive away, then his father died locally. They split the properties. Actually, was the case. Mentioned like the Batra, then it's the same family. I must be saying as follows. If his father was taken captive and his daughter's son, the grandson, died locally, or if the son was taken captive and his mother's father died locally, we don't know who died first. They split it. So now, if we see that the guy can pass if we hold that the son can pass the mother's inheritance through the grave, quote unquote, and even if he died first, the son died first, he should still be able to inherit the grandfather of the mother while he's dead. And the father's brothers, his brothers from his father should be able to inherit it, which is not. We can prove from here, the son cannot inherit his mother after he died to pass it on to his paternal brothers. The house collapsed on a man and his mother, killing them both. They both agree that they split it. If you tell me the son can inherit after his mother died, even if the son died first, the mother, he should be able to inherit the mother while he's dead and pass it to the paternal fathers. But we see you can't. We prove from here as well. Okay, how come he can't inherit it? The word transferal is mentioned by son and husband. Just like the husband, when he dies, he does not inherit his wife anymore. So too, obviously, also to a son, he also can transfer property from his mother to transfer it over to his paternal brothers. The guy told his friend, I'm selling you the property of Bar Sisin, a certain type of land. There was one piece of land that was called a property of Bar Sisin. So it may not have been part of it literally, but it was called that. So Amarle, Halab the Bar Sisin. When the guy said, "Okay, I'm collecting that land that I bought from you," one of these lands was that questionable land, and he says, "I bought it from you. Give it to me." He says, "No, it's not part of it. It's just called it." Rahman said, "No, it belongs to the buyer." How can you say that? The proof should be on the guy who's taking payment. Therefore, the buyer has to prove that he gets that land. Another case. My guy tells someone else, "What are you doing in my house?" Beginning by the third product. Amarle says, "Minas I bought it from you. I was here for 3 years." Amarle answers him back, "Anash b'shkunei gavai. I was living in the inside rooms." Rahman said, "Amar zil bro achetech. Go prove that you were using the house for 3 years. Then you'll have a chazakah." Amar Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi over there says that you should have to prove it, and therefore the guy who's claiming it, the guy who's claiming he was living inside, that should prove that he was there for 3 years. So Kasha the first case of the first case of Rava, he went sided with the original owner, and the second case of Rava favored the guy who was there, the new guy, and Rahman in the first case favored the new guy. In the second case, he favored the original owner. In the Bar Season case, he went with the seller because the guy was there already. Therefore, in the second case, he favored the buyer because he was there already. And therefore, we go according to who's there, and the other person has to bring a proof. In the first case, since the guy said, "I'm selling you Bar Sisin property," this property is called Bar Sisin. He should have specifically revealed that this land is not considered part of the sale. In the second case, the Nachman would say, by the case of the occupier, he should say there's no better if the guy was holding a document. Prove your document and then take it. So therefore, the guy who's there for 3 years has to prove that he was for 3 years in order to be considered the owner. And that's why in the second case he holds with that guy.